So since we seem to be going through a bit of a heat wave right now, let's talk about a few different ways to help cool your horse while you're working them before and after. One of my favorite things to do before I ride a horse, knowing that it's going to be a hot ride and they're going to be really warm after, is to just spray kind of their chest and between their hind legs before I tack up. So I like to just kind of get some cool water. Oh, you're okay. Good girl. And Gracie's still learning to tie, so this is a great practice for her. So I like to just kind of check the temperature of the water before I spray it onto them, because a lot of times the water can heat up in the hose. So once I have some cool water, I don't want to get their whole body wet because I'm going to be putting my saddle pad and saddle on. So I'm just going to spray, cool down her chest. Does that feel good? Spray down her chest and spray between her back legs, because those are the two places that can help cool them the fastest. So I just kind of start with an extra cooled down horse so that they can be sort of evaporating this water as we start our ride, which will help cool them and take away some of their body heat, instead of just having them create sweat and hope for the best. One of the most tried and true methods of cooling a horse down after a ride is just to hose them with water. Now, in the last few years, there have been a lot of studies whether leaving water on your horse or immediately scraping it off is better. I just read one where they did a study and basically continuous water on the horse is the best, but I don't really find that possible for a lot of places, especially we've been going through a bit of a drought here, so that's impossible. So one of my favorite things to do is just to hose them down with some cool water, making sure that I get to their important places that'll help cool them the most, and that's extra sweaty. And we'll hose both sides of her. And then we'll scrape the water off. And repeat. Another great way to cool your horse on hot days is to either hose them off or sponge them off, walk them a bit, and repeat. This really helps kind of just get all of the heat dissipating out of their body and into the air. By repeating and walking them, you don't have to leave their tack on as long as a cool out. This can be their cool out where you get their vital signs back to normal as well. So that's why you want to keep walking them instead of just having them stand still. And by cooling them, letting them dry a bit, and cooling them again, just helps lower their body temperature. Another way to cool your horse when it's really hot out is to just take a rag, some rubbing alcohol, and some cool water, and sponge them off. So I like to use a bucket of water instead of a hose sometimes, especially if there's been a drought, because then you can control how much water you're actually using so that you have water for the next day and the next day. So what I like to do is just kind of get my horse nice and wet, really kind of scrub out their sweat spots so that they don't have a lot of salt from their sweat sitting on their skin, especially if they're going back outside. That can dry them out. And some of my really sensitive skinned horses end up losing their hair, usually because they haven't had all of the sweaty, salty spots thoroughly scrubbed. So once you can get all of them wet, what I like to do is just take my rubbing alcohol and sort of spray them down. And then just kind of rinse off my towel a little bit and then just rub them in. The rubbing alcohol helps the water evaporate even faster, which will help them cool a lot more. I'm sure it also feels really good on their skin to just kind of get that rubbed in, and it can help sort of dry out some of those really sweaty spots. You want to make make sure that if you're using rubbing alcohol, you're A, not using it every single day because it will dry out their skin. But B, you just want to like use some water and rub it in so that it's not sitting on just one place.